Hola amigos, I am so excited to teach you something incredibly mind-bending hoy. And the thing that I want to teach you is about how to say I like, I love, or I care about things. Porque it is completamente diferente del inglés, totally different than the English. Because, deep down you know this. I bet this has been something kind of circling in your mind. Have you ever heard me gusta before? Sure. Well, we just figured out how to do present tense, and nowhere did we say I like may. And we also used an O ending whenever we were doing something that was for I. So, as you can already tell, something's up here, right? And we're going to have to spend a little bit of tiempo today figuring out how do we communicate our likes and loves and things that we care about. Because what better small talk conversation point is there? I mean, come on. So, let's take a peek. And I need you to be very open-minded here, okay? Because this is not going to be what we've worked on so far. This is going to be a total switch up. So first thing we want to be able to do today is be able to use like, love, or care about with an action such as swimming or, picking up trash or studying. And then we want to be able to use it with a singular object like a gato, like a cat, or a friend. Then we also want to be able to do that with plural things. I don't know why I went with a cat and dog theme, but roll with it, right? So plural, los perros, singular, el gato, and some sort of an action, AKA a verb. Okay, so that's what we're going to get out of this today. Only these three verbs and doing these three types of conversations or formulas. So it's going to be pretty condensed into just those things. It's really focused. There are so many more. And if you want to circle back to the concept of using Gustar with what's called IOP pronouns later on, you will get your chance. We will totally talk about that. So primero, let's talk about what gustar even means. It means to like, but really it more so means to be pleasing. I know that sounds a little bit creepy because pleasing and like I'm pleased to meet, it just feels strange in English. I get it. Pero it's not actually that strange in Spanish. So don't be turned off by the concepts. So what we're doing in Espanol is to like, or something is pleasing to you is the idea. Encantar is to love, but it's for objects, verbs. It's not like I love you, mom, or like your partner, something like that. And then importar, I like to remember it like important. So something is important to you or to some person, or that you care about something. So as you can probably tell, the care about and the like are more what the English sounds like. The being important to or the pleasing is a little more what the Spanish is trying to do. So you got to have an open mind to kind of swapping some orders around and really who's in charge. I'm going to use a semi-ridiculous analogy of driving a car, and hopefully that will be helpful for you as we go. So let's just get into it. In English, like I said, we're using the like and the care about version, and we're doing that using the speaker as the subject. So speaker being, hey, I am the person who's speaking and I like coffee. I'm kind of doing that action of liking. Coffee's just receiving it, sure. And then we've got he's the one doing the action. He's doing the loving and he's loving life or something. I know that sounds like a, home goods sign or whatever, but roll with it. And then I care about the environment. I'm doing the caring and I'm doing the caring to the environment, right? Pero en español, we are going to flip that entirely, and we are going to say that the object is the subject. If I haven't lost you already, I'm pretty impressed, right? I know these words are just really jargony, but let's just see what it looks like. So before I was in charge of the liking. Now coffee is in charge, but coffee is doing the pleasing, okay? And is doing the pleasing to me. Life is now in charge, which isn't it? Come on, philosophically, isn't it? And then it's being loved by him, right? So everybody's backwards now. The coffee's at the front, the life is at the front, and we are just kind of this bystander, right? We're not really doing anything. And then the environment, again, flip-flop order, the environment is important to me. So you're noticing this to me, by him, to me. So you got to notice that this is a total flop of the order, right? So the environment comes to the front, right? And the person doing the action is now the environment, it's not me. So I'll give my first little explanation of how you could do a car driving thing. So let's just think that we, in the English, we are driving the car as in, if I like coffee, I'm in the driver's seat and coffee's in the back seat, right? In this example though, coffee with its little coffee arms, its little hands, is driving, and I am in the back seat being pleased. I don't know, very strange, right? Don't get hung up on the please thing. I know it's strange. Same thing with this. He loves life. Well, he's in the front seat, he's doing the loving, and life is in the back seat along for the ride. This way is totally backwards. Life is driving, which honestly, in my 30s, that's how it's feeling to me. Life is driving and he's in the back seat along for the ride now. So if you can get your head around that total swap, right, of what we've done every single lesson and video up until this point, you got to be really open-minded to the concept that this can happen, but don't freak out that it's going to happen with every verb you ever want to use and everything's different now. We're staying in our lane. I know, car analogy. Again, we're staying in our lane of just these 3 verbs right now. Okay. So this is not going to come up with every single thing ever. You can still want or need, right? By using yo quiero, yo necesito. You are the driver of that action, of the wanting and the needing. That's cool. Stick with that if that's what you want to do. But if you want to start using or really understanding these 3 verbs, which come on, how often do you think this comes up in a given day? We talk all the time about preferences, and native speakers are going to do this all the time too. So you got to be prepared and ready to hang with that conversation. So let's take a peek at how things are going to change, because we haven't even spoken about a single Spanish thing yet, right? We haven't done a sentence. So primero, we've got gustar, which is like, just if you're tracking, I know it's new to us. I have one particular item here, singular, of el chocolate. Okay, that's why this L is underlined. El chocolate means that I need to go back a step in this sentence, and it's already written out. El chocolate is why this is gusta. Okay. And so if we're doing our driver's seat analogy, which you know already by now, I love, chocolate is driving. Hopefully it's not melting while doing so. It's driving us. Okay. Because that's going to be the pronoun we use. I'll show you this in a second, I promise. Getting ahead of myself. Down here though, plural chocolates. I don't know. What'd you get? A bag of Halloween candy? Who knows? Los chocolates are making this plural, because they are driving. They're in the driver's seat. They're the one that we're choosing out of the chart for, right? And you'll notice this later as well, but we're only choosing 2 places in the chart, and it's just singular and plural. That's all we're doing. We're not including gusto or gustamos or anything like that. We really don't need to. And that'll become more clear as we go. Then we got encantar, which is to love, not romantic love, not family love. This is just for things, items. So for me, I suppose I could say el vino, and the vino, which we know to be wine, should never be driving, but hey, it is. It's behind the driver's seat, and it is driving encanta, being singular, right? Because the wine is lovable, I don't know, to me, right? So I'm at the front as me encanta el vino. So it's backwards. And now if it's plural wines, I don't know, let's say you bought a case. All of those are sitting on the driver's seat and they're taking you on a trip. Those plural wines are going to dictate the same thing, slapping an N on this because it's also an AR verb. All 3 of them are. So you're going to see this pattern play out each time, but the may has stayed the same because I'm still in the back seat. There's just multiple wines driving. And then down here, we've got película. Do you know película? It happens at the cine that you're going to watch this, or on Netflix or on DVD. It's a movie. So we're saying here, give it a try. See if you can understand-ish what's happening. I know the les is new to us because I'm getting into those next, but la película is the movie, and the movie is not now, because it's negative, not important to them. I'll explain why that's them in a minute. And now it's the plural movies are not important with a plural conjugation to them as well. So we'll talk about how to make these changes, and you will mess this up. Can I just tell you right now, you're going to make the wrong choice, have to backtrack. Just like think about when you first had to learn that there were 4 types of el, la, los, las when you're doing the, and how hard that was to remember, or putting the noun before the adjective. It's just another one of those things that you're going to have to say, I accept in my heart of hearts that this is a foreign language and that it is flipping the script on me and putting me in the back seat now where I was not prepared to be, but treat it like an Uber ride. You're getting where you need to go. It's all good. So we're just using our LAOS conjugation as mentioned. Here are those pronouns that I was withholding from you rudely, but me, te, le, nos, and les are all we need for right now. If you're curious what an indirect object pronoun is, stick around, okay? We are going to do so much work on pronouns later though, not now, because we want to keep things simple. I can't help you say I like, love, or care about, which is such a base level type of conversation we want to have without including this. But what I don't want to do is make it so daunting that you're like, man, I really wish I hadn't asked, right? So we'll take this as it is. Me, you, him, her. Notice this is different than I, he, she. So they sound a little different, right? Us is not we. So hopefully you can map them in your head to a different meaning than the traditional subjects we've been working with of just yo, tú, él, ella, usted, and so on. Let's thicken the plot, shall we? We've got a mí, me, a ti, te, a él, ella, usted, le. Now here's the hard part of this, okay? There's a lot of words, right? A lot of letters. A, él, le sounds like that's all going to run together into one word, and you're right, depending on the speaker, that's going to sound really fast and furious. Also, why do all this extra work of including who the person is and doing the pronoun? I know that's going to be upsetting to you later, okay? Because when we do more pronoun work, you're going to be like, I'm adding extra work and I don't want to do this. But we want to fit in, friends. We want to sound like we've been speaking Spanish since we were a bebé. And in order to do that, we've got to make this seem like it ain't no thing to add all this extra work. Now, the ones that are in bold, as you're starting to notice, el usted is where things get difficult, right? You know how I'm always telling you, like, don't forget to mention el cambia instead of just cambia, because we need to know who the person is when there's options. That's why we're doing this. So if I say a Ricardo le, you know who that le goes with. If you don't, you just think it's some third person, maybe you don't even know. It could be a dog, it could be a friend. So you really need that extra bit of information, which you don't really need in these three sections. You can include it. It's good for emphasis. It's good for like extra passion around something. Depending on where you live or where you're speaking your Spanish, this might be a more common thing to be used, but it doesn't have to be there grammatically. So for an example, we'd have a mi abuelita le encanta la ópera. I know we see this here, but you will forget it. You'll get very excited and be like, mi abuelita, but I need to my teeny little grandmother. The opera is loved, right? Or the opera is loved by, just whatever you need to think of like by or to, but we need something that's linking the abuela to the loving that the opera is providing, right? So basically, using my silly driver's analogy, it would be the opera is in the driver's seat, providing this loving action, right? Singularly to the abuelita. And the to the is why we're doing that, to my. Down here, a ellos les importa. Now I know we've got plural ellos, plural pronoun, and then we don't have a plural conjugation. What's the deal there? Why is importa singular? Pause if you need to. This is mind warping, okay? Es muy difícil. So la comida is in our driver's seat and it's being important to them. So if la comida is singular, so is importa, pretty much not worrying about basically who's in the back seat, right? So this a ellos les is multiple people in the back seat, but if we want, it could just be a mí me importa la comida, but the driver being food, which I love the analogy. I love seeing the visual of that in my head. But if the food is driving, importa, it doesn't really matter. Is it important? Get it? Importa. It doesn't really matter who these people are in the front of this sentence, which is really in the backseat of the car. So if that's a helpful analogy to you, great. If you want to just start mapping things out and saying like, who's doing the action? Is it them, like they, or is it the food? Like whatever way you need to do it, it's that wraparound. That's really what we're looking for. So now let's break down, now that I've gotten into kind of some of these like clarifying points, all the way back up here, I had spoken about 3 different things we were going to be able to do today, and we're ready to do them now. So let's get into it. So down here, we are starting with an action. So you want to be able to put a verb in its infinitive form, which hopefully by now you are so sick of me saying the word infinitive because I say it all the time. But an infinitive is an AR-ER-IR verb with the ending still tacked on. So unos ejemplos aquí, correr, visitar, ver. Any verb you'd like. Nothing's off the table. I'd say putting gustar after gusta would make no sense, but otherwise, do what you want to do. So here I'm saying me gusta correr, and really what you see here is this is templated for me. I'm always going to use the singular version and then the verb next. I don't have to worry about if I'm changing this. Hopefully that makes life easier. So I'm always going to have a el, ella, usted ending on these, whatever verb I want. The only thing that's going to be a little bit more changeable, dynamic is the backseat, right? So who is receiving the pleasure, right, of running, whatever it might be, that's going to be me. So I like running, right? Or running is pleasing to me, right? What would this next one be? Nos importa visitar al museo. What's our translation here? So B, visiting. So I'm starting in a different place than you would expect, right? I'm like chopping, kind of dicing this sentence up into bits and then moving them. Visiting the museum is driving, right? And what's it driving is important, singular, to us. As you'll note, nos went with us, not we, right? And if you can, I think it's easier to remember it as us because it'll make you use this structure better. It wouldn't make sense to say important to we. So you'd probably want to remember it this way. Okay, and then a ellos les encanta ver la televisión. Try this one by yourself, pause me if need be, but we are going to start with what's in the driver's seat, which, as you can probably tell, is not going to be ellos. That would be too simple, right? Just because it's at the front does not mean that's where we're going to start in inglés. So here we would say watching. I know it says see the television, but it's either one. Watching TV is loved by, I know that's kind of wild, but we can use by here, is loved by them. And we know there's at least one guy in that group to make it ellos. Okay, super fun, huh? And then we just want to make sure that if we're using a le or a les, just like you saw me do on this last one, I did include the a and the ellos. Both of those have to come with together. Okay, so we can't just say ellos les encanta. I need to know that there's this a. It really sets the Spanish speaker up, like their ears are going to perk up a little bit and say, oh, okay, this isn't the driver. I'm hearing it first, but this is the person in the back seat. And it really primes them to be prepared for one of these types of verbs, of which there are many more, but we're only focusing on the 3 that you see here today. Okay. Same singular la usted conjugation you just saw can go with a noun. So this is very repetitive, I know, but if I'm going singular noun, gusta. Singular noun, importa. Singular vestido, we'll make it encanta. And we're bearing in mind, I'm going to have you pause right here and decide who's in the driver's seat, or rather, how am I processing this information? What does it sound like in English? Because we don't want to get too much further with things still feeling a little uncertain, because I just keep layering stuff on, as I'm sure you can tell. So let's see, if you've already paused, fantastic. You would know that this one is coffee, because coffee starting is pleasing. My gosh, my coffee spelling is atrocious. Is pleasing to you, informal, right? Because I'm seeing the te. Al hombre, interesting. So a el hombre becomes al. I'm sure you're noticing that. So I'm ready when I hear al hombre. I'm like, that's backseat. So I know that there's a guy in the backseat, but who's driving? If I get to the very end, I see his phone. So this sounds to me like his phone. I know this will sound weird with the possession first, or the phone is important to the man. And if you're at all a little bit perfectionist or OCD, like I have been in the past, where it's like, this doesn't translate perfectly, the order is messed up, I want it to just go word for word for word. Like sometimes it does in Spanish. Yo entiendo, I absolutely get it, but it's just not something that we're always going to be able to fall back on. There's even a whole section later on something called modismos, where it is by design, the sentence does not make sense if you translate each of the words. It's not just the sum of its parts. So we'll go into those topics un poco más tarde, but for now, you're just kind of leaning into the idea that this does not work in English, but I'm giving it my best shot to give my brain something to chew on when I'm hearing these sentences. El vestido is an article of clothing. If we know what it is, great. But this one, I might say I love the dress. And I know that's lazy of me because I'm not using this backwards order that we had been using, but the dress is loved by me. Just, I know that sound, you're rolling your eyes. I can hear it. You're rolling your eyes because you're like, no one ever talks like that, okay? This one right here, you're right. No one ever talks like that either. We could say the man cares about his phone. And that's where his makes a lot more sense, right? He cares about his phone. Oh my gosh, typing. And then up above, we would be saying, coffee is pleasing to you. You like coffee, right? So we don't want to lose touch with like what sounds natural, but it's real hard to map each of these words to the right place if you go straight here and are only willing to think of it in that term. So either one. Okay, now we get to the last piece, I promise. Okay, so plural objects lends to plural conjugations due to the fact that we have our driver and our driver's plural now. So is our verb that is being committed by that driver. So nos encantan cervezas is because plural cervezas, plural encantan. We are in the back seat just along for the ride, which in this instance sounds like a good idea. So we would say in our English brain, we love beers, plural. But it could be that beers are loved by us. A mis padres les gustan las mascotas. Feel free to give that one a try. Mascotas are pets. So this is saying my parents love pets, like pets. And we're doing a mis padres les. There's a lot of words there, but this is all the clarifying information because if you just hear les gustan las mascotas, I have no idea who you're talking about. And then te importan los libros de ficción. So anytime we see a de here, this is combining two nouns. This is going to be fiction books. And we are saying that you care about fiction books, or the books of fiction are important to you if we want to sound like an English chat GPT robot of some sort. Okay, last thing I want us to look at really quick is we're going to try to break this down and kind of isolate this into two different types of practice. Because if you think about it, our sentences had two distinct places within the car. You could be in the driver's seat, you could be in the back seat. So we're going to practice massaging and kind of putting in the blank what we need for each of those scenarios. So the first one that we're looking at is your verb is provided to you, right? So we're really looking at what's going on in the driver's seat because los perros are driving and they're going to tell me what I need to do with Encantar. My mom is just along for the ride in the back seat, and that is given for you. You don't have to change anything there. So your decision is really just between two different things. You're deciding, is it él or is it ellos? And then putting that in the blank. We're just doing present. It should be nice and simple here. So we're just making a choice of, is it ending in an a or is it ending in an ene, right? I see plural perros, so I'm going to go ahead and say encantan, but I know that that's got to be tricky. If you're reading the sentence, as we've always done, you get your subject first and then you conjugate off of it. It's going to feel weird to have a singular mama and then hearing encantan right after that, but you're waiting for the punchline, which is los perros, which is the part that's really driving this conjugation in the first place. Muy difícil. Okay, let's look at another one. Let's do this one, número 6. So we're going to say, okay, nuestros. Do we know nuestros? Yeah, I don't think we do actually. That's the next lesson, lección 9. So I'm glad I picked this one in particular. This is our friends. So if we wanted to say, our friends are important to us, our friends, multiple people are in the driver's seat. So I, yet again, am going to choose to put a plural in here. And it's nothing to do with the fact that this is plural, right? It's only to do with the fact that we have multiple friends. Okay. Últimamente, let's do ocho, I suppose. We've got encantar. Give this one a try. Pause me if need be. What or who is driving? How many of that person are or thing are driving, and what goes in the blank of your two choices. You got a 50-50 shot here, which maybe even is helpful to know. I used to think in the very beginning that all conjugations were on the table because that's how verbs work. However, here you really only need to decide between él and ellos. So go ahead, make your decision, pop it in the blank. I'll do mine. I'll do encanta singular because I'm provided chocolate or chocolate as singular. So we've got a couple fill-ins here. I want you to try your own as always. If you want to make some modifications and say, well, what if it was only one dog? Or what if those chocolates did become plural? You want to make sure that you can pull the lever and understand what's happening afterward. Okay. Now the second piece, we are now focusing on the back seat of the car, right? We are provided that it's a verb that's happening. It's a singular noun or a plural Armadillos, come on, right? When was the last time you talked about armadillos? Armadillos, as they're really pronounced. So we're making our decision not on that. That's already decided for us. We are just getting a hint about who the person is that's in the back seat, and then we're trying to make this marry up. Here's what's going to happen. I'll do two examples. Okay. This one right here is a bit of memorization. You're going to have to get to me with an accent, who knew, right? And then to me. That is going to be one option. The other option that I could have is putting these in italics, saying, I might not want to say that. I might just want to say, me importa la naturaleza, nature, which is singular, making it importa. I'm just along for the ride in the back seat, and I don't have to establish this extra work if I don't feel like it. So that's nice. But then when we get down here, helado is ice cream, by the way. If you're a big fan, put that on your vocab sheet, stat. Okay, so I've got usted. I'm going to actually put usted here because I don't have a cutesy like me or T to put here. So I'm just going to put that person who is you formal. And then I'm like, oh, what is the pronoun that goes with that? There was something about direct or whatever, indirect. You don't really have to worry. You're just coming back to your chart, taking a peek and seeing, okay, him, her, you, formal. Well, I guess that's going to put me in the camp of lay, since those always share the same line. I know I didn't say that before, but trying to sneak that in. So I'm going to put a lay here, and then I'm going to sit back and say, do I get to do my italics this time? Where I say, oh, that was optional, to put the usted. And I'd say, only way I could really get away with that is if I've really well established that I've been talking about usted the entire time. So I'm talking to a person formally, and we've been talking about preferences for the past 5 minutes. And I'd say, le gusta helado, which would be, do you like ice cream? And they know that I'm talking to them. So I'll leave you these oraciones to traducir because we're already getting close to time here. The Spanish ones are really going to warm you up. So you're going to see the examples you're trying to use, whether it's the car driving front seat, back seat example or something different in your head. You are trying to process who everybody is, why the pronouns are there. Oh, why do I have the amarilla? Do I really need that? And oh, it's los insectos, which is making gustan plural. What does this sound like in English to me? So on and so forth. So this is going to take un poco de tiempo, but definitely give it a shot for these first ones. And then when you get down here, the pressure's on you. And most of them, I wrote the exact way your English brain would serve it to you. So if you want to think of it this way, I like to consider, like, if you've ever used a shredder, you definitely don't want to put a page in sideways. And a lot of these are putting the page in sideways. So for instance, I could come down to numero 11 and see, we like to visit our family. However, that's going in sideways to my shredder and it's going to cause a paper jam. So what I would want to do is kind of translate my English first, which I know seems like woof, right? Why am I doing this? But I would say, for instance, visiting our family is pleasing to us. Now I've got my us, which is making me think of that nos that I needed. I'm thinking about who's doing the driving of pleasing. Oh, it's visiting. That's an action. So I'm going to use my singular. And that for me has a lot of bells going off. Seeing we like to visit, I get very confused personally about, oh, I'm supposed to have two verbs back to back, I guess, but how am I doing that? So here's what I would say. For this one, I'd say, okay, us is our subject. And I'm always seeing that at the very front, kind of revealed right away. So I'm going to do the nos. We're doing the pleasing one, which is gustar. I had two choices, either gusta or gustan. And since this is going to be an action, I'm going to keep it singular. And then I'll come here visiting. I know we don't know ing yet. That's progresivo, but you don't need to because this is the action that I was told I need to leave in its infinitivo. So I'm going to put that in, and then I can say nuestra familia. I know that's a bit of a low blow because I haven't taught you our yet for our family. But that's the whole shebang. And then I'm just going to check it, make sure kind of everybody is matching up the way I want to. So gusta is supposed to be matching with visitar. I chose to just do nos mainly because I'm lazy. If you are not as lazy as me, you alternatively could have said a nosotros, but you would need by design to have both of those words. It's all or nothing. So you're either putting in the a nosotros or you are just skipping it entirely. I am a big fan of the skipping it entirely, but it's really up to you. So that's an example, un ejemplo. If you want to tinker with these, if you want to take each one and do them again and say, you don't like famous people, my best friend cares about art, and just swap in the different verb or a different subject, basically making tiny tweaks to your front seat and your back seat at all times. go for it. It's really going to benefit you. Te prometo, I promise you. But this is a tricky, tricky subject, and try to just see if you can use it in a really applicable manner of, I'm going to list 3 things I like. I'm going to list 3 things I care about. And if those things end up being plural, like maybe it's hockey games or something, you might say, okay, well, if I want to say I like hockey games plural are driving. So I'm going to have to say, me gustan partidos de hockey, and just try that to make it real world, right? So that if somebody ever does ask your preferences, you can give those in kind of an eloquent format. Try a couple negatives, like I don't like. So making a little list of just bullets and trying out those sentences are going to be really, really helpful. And next, we're going to get into some of that possession, right? So we'll do like our and his and her. But take your time on this because we just did in 8 all of these new kind of ways of conjugating verbs based on the front seat versus back seat concept. And you were also learning some formulas in 8A that were allowing you to use kind of future leaning or in the past. So that's a lot of good density. And I would maybe stay there, make sure you're checking out some of the book work on that, right? So if you want to get into a little bit of that IOP concept, you could check that out in the Complete Spanish Step by Step. And also just kind of any worksheets that I've got for you, check them out. I would think that would be a good place to go. So I'll see you when you're ready for Lección 9. Good job getting through all the ochos. Lots of new concepts here. And if you haven't already picked this up, anything you get comfortable doing, just be prepared for that to just change on the dime, because that's why it's called a foreign language. Okay, muchas gracias. Catch you next time. Ciao.